Hey, this is JGen11 back with another video. This time in the Love Cup with my team of Alomomola, Medicham, and Wormadam-Trash. This is a very bulky team, so there's quite a lot of flexibility in how it's played. There's a lot of fast move pressure with Waterfall and Confusion, as well as counters that can get power-up punched with Medicham. We'll get into the first battle here against though technical. We got Coloped on the lead, so this is okay matchup, but he ends up switching into what looked like a hard counter Electrode. So I have to get out right away, and then Medicham actually has a decent matchup, but I usually will have to go down a shield, but I should be able to get a shield back considering the threat of Psychic is pretty good. So I was actually a little late on the power-up punch. Usually you'd want to throw it right away, since I doubt it will get shielded anyway, particularly once I shielded. And so I got a lot of energy on Medi. I'm actually going for a really aggressive play by baiting, and he gets a shield, and I'm able to actually get to a Psychic, so I either pretty much KO or take out both shields. And so we are up a shield, and then Alomomola would seem like its biggest threat is gone. And we actually came in Wormadam, and then he switched into Alomomola, so we just need to do a little bit of chip on Alomomola, since Wormadam has such a dominant matchup against Coloped. So the Alomomola mirror is not particularly exciting. You're just waiting to see who gets a debuff. So he actually is able to get to 2 Psychics before I even throw one, and he got a debuff, but it's not particularly threatening because I still have a shield and a hard counter in the back. But I'm actually able to get to the Psychic first, and so that's going to be a good game. Next battle, going against 6'4" Ninja, who's leading Shadow Vileplume, so that's probably the worst lead that I could have, other than possibly Cherim. So Metacham's the safe switch. I don't throw right away I'm not sure if he wants to stay in or not, and so he brings in Charizard. And so it's good that Medicham drew it out. And then he doesn't shield a Psychic, so I'm just going to go straight power-up punch. And since I have 2 shields, if needed, I'll commit both of them to try to regain switch, just because of how good of a matchup Wormadam-Trash is against their lead of Shadow Vileplume, which will almost never get to a move because it takes so long for the Razor Leafs to add up. And so I'm down a shield, but I did win switch, and then he's got a Charmeleon in the back, which is extremely spicy. This game just came down to switch advantage based on how hard counter this is. But I wasn't expecting to see a Charmeleon, maybe a Charizard or Talonflame, but I'm able to get to the Psychic, and then that's going to be a good game. Oh, actually, he's got a shield. How did I forget? But it's still a good game because I got a dominant matchup against Vileplume. He throws a Petal Blizzard, probably just for science, but that was all that game went. So Talonflame, normally you would think that's a pretty good matchup, so I switch out. It's looking pretty good. I got my Charmancer, and I got Charm. I'm thinking this is double Charm, but you never know. Some of these teams are going to be pretty wild, especially on day 1 of Love Cup. So it was very interesting that he decided to shield that move, because I'm able to get to a second one. So he's got to go down 2 shields to win, or to win switch. So it's still looking pretty good. I won switch and a shield advantage. Unfortunately, he has an Alomomola. So I'm just doing a little chip before switching. So I shield a Psychic, so that would have done a ton of damage. I might throw my own Psychic, which will get close to KOing, but doesn't quite get there. So Talonflame still has a ton of health, but I don't have a lot of energy on Alomomola, and it takes a long time for it to get to moves. So Talonflame actually throws here. I thought he was going to try to farm down, but he's just trying to boost up its attack with Flame Charge. And then I let this go thinking that, you know, if you Brave Birds, I get the waterfalls in. But the Brave Bird does way more than I thought it was going to do, and we actually end up tying. Next battle, we have Electrode on the lead. So not a great lead, but I try to go to Medicham. And we got an interesting counter swap of Licky Licky, so we're both going to be doing super effective damage on our fast moves. So this is a great situation for Power Up Punch. I'm just going to start ramping up and just seeing what happens after that. So he just throws the Body Slam, which is fortunate that he either didn't get to Shadow Ball or didn't throw it or didn't have it. So I'm able to counter down without having to burn a shield, and then it's still a decent amount of health on Medicham, so I'm just going to keep ramping up with Power Up Punch, and this is why I recommend Power Up Punch, is just because of how oppressive counter is, especially if you can get a couple of them off. So I took a shield there and most of the health of Electrode. But he did have 2 discharges there. I end up shielding one of them. You never know if your shields are going to end up being worthless if it's like Charm in the back or something like that. So seeking Alomomola, I don't really need to shield anything. Just pretty much as much damage as I can do on seeking is good enough, because it's not going to do that well against Electrode. It was definitely interesting that he shielded that, and he went for the Icy Wind on the first one and on the second one. I think Drill Run was probably a better play, especially since I'm not going to shield my Alomomola. And so he goes for a third Icy Wind. But I had the Psychic, or I just got the Psychic, and that'll finish off the Electrode, and then I still have a shield for Wormadam, just in case. I'm not sure how much Drill Run does, but better be safe than sorry. He actually Icy Wins, and we got the Bug Buzz for the KO. And that is a good game. Next game, Alomomola Mirror. So this is not a particularly exciting mirror, but I try to usually switch out at some point, just because the back line struggles against certain threats, such as like Charizard. I'd want that to get drawn out So I ended up switching into Wormadam. I could have done the chip with the Psychic. But interesting that he stays in, which tells me he doesn't have a fire type. Otherwise, it would have been an easy switch. Normally, Metacham's a safe switch, but in this situation, I'm just trying to bait out the counter. He throws a Hydro Pump, which is pretty good for me. And I can see why he didn't switch, since he had a Charmer that he brought into this. So fortunately, I'm able to get to both Iron Heads there, so that's going to really pressure Shields. I'm able to get both of them, and I'm actually pretty close to a Hydro Pump already since I left with the Psychic. And that'll definitely threaten the Wigglytuff, almost KO if it doesn't. And so it does end up KOing, and then shields are down. We have Vileplume. And so the good thing about Vileplume, if you're facing it, is that it's never going to pretty much get to a move. He tries to sack, but it doesn't work. There was no real pressure for me to have to throw as soon as I got the Psychic, because I knew that the Vileplume wasn't going to get a move. Next game, Alomomola into Scizor. So he actually switches into Melodic. And so I know that Alomomola is going to outpace Melodic if it tries to go for the Hyper Beam, since Psychic is a lot less energy, and then Alomomola has quite a beefy stat product, so I'm not particularly threatened by this safe switch. And he does go for the Hyper Beam, so that's really good, since we're ahead on health and energy. And so Melodic almost dies after the Psychic lands, but we're able to get some good farm on it after. And then I was pretty sure that was not a Hyper Beam, since it came relatively soon. And then he has Slowbro. This is actually one of the more difficult Pokemon to deal with this team, but I'm not going to switch since I can get a move off. I really don't want to have the Slowbro on Medicham. So the good thing about Slowbro is it doesn't have any move that particularly threatens Wormadam, unlike Slowking, which can have a fire charge move. And so he switches into Scizor. This is a great opportunity to show how good Power Up punches. So I'm just going to start ramping up on the counters. And considering that it's a Shadow Scizor, it doesn't take quite as much to KO it. And then I know that the Slowbro can't shield this, since I would just get to a Bug Buzz. So the Psychic's going to do a lot of damage and ends up KOing. Next battle, Alomomola into Medicham. So these are two of the tankiest Pokemon in the meta. I highly doubt that they would try to bait with a Power-Up Punch if they're not going to immediately try to throw it. And so I correctly shield the Psychic. I didn't have to shield it, but there's a lot of games where it's like, well, I wish I shielded something. He actually lets the Psychic go through. And then he's got his own Alomomola, so we've got pretty similar teams so far, considering he has two of the three that I have. The Bug Buzz is still chunk a little bit. And we got a defense drop. And we're just able to get to another move. This is really going to pressure shields. So I bring in the Alomomola since it can a little better soak some of this damage. And then potentially get a big farm down. So we both decide to switch. Medicham does not get to a move. And then we got to see what he's got in the back, and it's probably the worst case situation is to see a Clefable matched up with Medicham. So the Psychic does not KO. I don't think I'm going to get to another Psychic, and he's got a shield, which that was a questionable shield on his part, since I had a Psychic ready. And so it's just going to be a fast move, tap down, and I end up losing by 1 or so waterfalls. Alomomola into Slowbro. This is Shadow Slowbro at that. Slowbro is somewhat threatening since I can't hit it with any neutral moves with Alomomola. So I'm just basically sacking the Alomomola. Interesting that he got a shield out of that. And then interesting that he brings Vileplume into Medicham since I have Psychic and it'll do a lot of damage. It actually KOs, which I wasn't expecting that to KO, but it did just enough. So I still got a lot of shields left. I might as well shield something. And then I wasn't sure if Power Up Punch was going to be enough, so I just go for the safer play of the Psychic. And then he's got an Electrode. So Electrode's pretty good in this cup since there's not really a lot of ground types running around, so it's fairly safe as a lead or in the back. So I noticed that he built up a lot of energy there, so I figured that he's gonna have to go over 100 if he successfully avoids the sack there. So at this point, I can just fast move down, and it's a good game. And thank you guys for watching this video.